What's going on, guys? Cody from Motorcycle MD. We are still on the XL185s, but we're putting the motor back together, which I'm pretty excited about. In this video, we'll be doing the bottom end and solving a few problems that we run into. Again, we're trying to rebuild the motor and get the bike back on the road on a budget. Things we run into, we gotta kind of deal with or find a way around it. If you're new to the channel, then you're probably behind on this build. Be sure to check out the playlist that I have going on for this bike, as well as many others that we're working on. But in this video in particular, we had to put the bottom end back together. We just painted the cases, got them all nice and clean, and we run into a couple of issues in this one. Some are my own fault, most of them are my fault, and some are just problems that I found while I was cleaning things up, like the transmission and that kind of stuff. But progress is still progress, so we gotta venture forward. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We do videos on motorcycle repair and maintenance and rebuilds and project bikes and all different types of stuff. If you're into that sort of thing, or if you like working on your own bike and doing it properly, then this channel might be for you. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. I can almost guarantee you that you'll find something helpful that you can apply today for your bike in the 200 plus videos that I have out on this channel. Be sure to check them out. And before you go, there's a free course in the description, 40 plus videos on how to take care of your bike properly, consistently, things that you should be doing to it to keep it on the road where it belongs. Be sure to grab that before you go. That being said, let's try to move forward on this motor. We have tons to do, as always. So I've taken, as you've seen, most of the cases and everything through a parts wash with a brush. Got them all nice and cleaned up. Forks, transmission. But I do want to go back through these. Weird thing on the center fork. Look at this mark. That's metal on metal contact where it wore into it, which would be likely this one. It's the center fork here. Now that on these older bikes, that's pretty normal to have that kind of play. All of them have it. On these gears, it has like a little band, like a wear band attached to that gear. It's not movable, it's just like a very flat surface. It looks like a washer, but it's not. And that's exactly where that mark lines up with. But this fork is not bent. Like I've done everything in my power to see if this thing is bent at all. This is a low mile bike, 2,100 miles. Like, that's extremely low. I don't know. This is not bent, this shaft is not bent, there's little to no play on this at all. All of them feel the same. This has no wear on it at all on the drum, as if it was broken or misshaped or something. I don't understand how this could have happened unless it was a manufacturer defect. I mean, even if someone's power shifting or shifting the snot out of this thing, I guess I could see where it was getting caught there. And this is trying to spin still, and it's, I don't know. But there's no heavy wear on the gear itself. There is some contamination that was in the oil as this is spinning around the fork. This is kind of chilling on the fork all the time. And this is rotating, but this is stationary. But not worth replacing. And like I said, this thing, I put this on a very flat surface. I put levels on it. I put 90 degrees on it. There's just no bend in it. So I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna grind this down a little bit with a little Dremel, but I personally cannot see a reason to replace it. Why it happened, I don't know. Maybe this will be the demise of this bike when I get this thing all back together and all of a sudden it's not shifting into third, or it grinds or something, but I just can't see it happening. So anyways, I'm gonna take this apart bit by bit, and I'm just going to re-clean everything with some acetone. And the fun part is I have a gnarly cut on my finger that I'm really excited about. So we're gonna use some tools to stay out of this acetone as much as we can. I also have no gloves, so let's go for it. Keep everything organized in our next tray over here. A lot of this stuff won't take much because it's already pretty darn clean. So here's that gear. I mean, it's not beautifully shiny on that center part, you know, it's just not. But neither are these. You know, these things are not polished down to the point of perfection. That's the kind of stuff I'm trying to get rid of. There's some like there, and then there would be like some in between the gears, like down in there. I'm also looking for spots on the inside where this is actually going to be running on. So there's a dark spot in there. I'm trying to get rid of that as well. It's a little rough though, might be rust. And for any of you perfectionists out there, this is the kind of stuff that you'll run into on old bikes. Many of you will never know because you don't open them up and look at it. It's not like I can call up Honda and get a brand new part made. What I've learned over the years is that motors and these parts are a lot more hardy than you think they are. And yes, there's rust, and rust typically always comes back unless it's soaked in oil and lives in oil its whole life. But this is the best you can do. Just give it a fighting chance. Take some Scotch-Brite. It's a little mark down there, but I'm happy with that. I'm gonna make sure the lands for the circlips are nice and clean. No rust sitting in those pockets. One overlooked spot oftentimes is the center of the, straight down the center. Contaminated oil and stuff makes its way in there, and the centrifugal force will just throw it up against the ceilings. And then it'll just stay there, and just find it all the time. This one looks really, really clean. And this one does have bushings in it, but I don't see any issues with them at all. See, what's different between this and like a newer transmission is you see all these holes that are inside of here. Very important, right? They send oil in and out and allow them to keep things lubricated. On newer stuff, what they found that is that if you put holes on these sliding gears, like right down in the center of one of these sliding gears, and you can actually just line those up with the holes, like on a fixed gear, like this one's not gonna jump off the spline and go to another one. It can go whichever one it wants. But on newer ones, they'll put a hole that lines up with these holes so that more oil can make its way out. No, I'm not going to drill this. No, I'm not going to do that. But that's just a newer design of what they do now versus what they did back in the 70s and 80s on a cheaper model bike. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to lube all this stuff up with some, I just use this assembly lube. 2 times the zinc! This stuff actually smells like cinnamon, which is really annoying. But it was discounted, so why not? One thing I hear about people kind of overthinking is just bearing installing. Listen for the pitch change. That's dull. Boom, you hit that ping. Same with this other one. Boom, it's in. It's finally time to give this rusty old crank a place to live. You can see where the rust was chewing away at it. I'm not worried about it. This bearing's fine. 2 brand new bearings on both sides. I'm gonna put a little bit of lubrication on this part here. One thing I like to do once I'm done going through a transmission and I've had it all apart, because things can get kind of confusing quick and it's easy to be unsure of the stuff that you did or how you placed it. I like to take an image and blow it up and then just go over it real quick with my brain so I know it's all good, because it's not a place you want to kind of head back to. And boy am I glad I did. I got something wrong. See how this gear follows right behind the fixed gear? So there's our fixed gear there. Then it goes to this one. Then we got the spline washer and the snap ring, which we have. But then this gear right here, after this snap ring, goes the dogs with the slider, then the gear, which is all one gear. As you can see, that one is on backwards. The reason why it's on backwards, because in the manual that I'm following, which is the XR200, which can be very closely related to the XR185, the gear for it doesn't show. This has 2 gears on it in this image, and that's what I was going off of, so I kind of just guessed, and Guessing is never good, so I went to a parts fish, pulled it up for this exact model, and now I know. Double check, man. It's always good to double check. So we're gonna take all this back off again. Really try not to overbend those snap rings. So we'll take this off, and this will go right back on. Snap rings can be a little confusing, but the direction of the load is what I always remember. Since the load's going that way, we want the flat end of the snap ring holding it back. So the flat end goes on this side. It's kind of hard to explain. Snap ring, then our spline washer. No washer in between these two, and then final washer. And there we have it. Now it's correct. Whew. That would have sucked. Alright, so I am 100% confident now. Add a little moly to the mating surface of the bearing and the transmission shaft, as well as these places here. You don't have to. Oil is fine, but do you, boo-boo. This is not in neutral, and the gears are not synchronized, so that's why it won't spin all the way through. So you guys might remember that funky fork that I had. I found so many weird imperfections on this fork. Like these are very well machined, nice surface. Same with this one, looks nice. It could be a little bit smoother, but it looks nice. This one had so many ridges on the inside, not wear, but just like, I can still kind of feel them. It's just kind of a bummer. It's almost like it was like a bad fork. Like I said, I can't get them new, and that's the only thing that I would want to buy. So I ground this down, not a lot, just made it flat, and I smoothed these out as well. So we're gonna run with it. So we do have our drum to go in. This will go in here. We also have our neutral switch, which is a pretty important part. This one's kind of bent. Our neutral switch, you guys remember this when we took the motor down apart? I don't want to flip this motor in, but it goes like that. Our neutral switch has our contact pad. That's gonna go on it like that. This little hooked edge has a spot for it to live, and we'll kind of bend that so it fits in there nicer, which right now it's not, but you do want it to stay in there, and that's going to go in there like that, so that when we are shifting it and we hit the neutral spot, it will hit there. Definitely not a part you want to forget. And we can clean that up a little bit so it's nice clean surface. A little Scotch-Brite to it just to get it back to a rough metal. One thing I probably could explain a little bit better, that brass piece that's connected to that fork drum is grounded to the fork drum, to the motor, to everything around it. Because of a cable that will get sent to the motor engine assembly that grounds the motor, that makes that brass piece also grounded, so when that switch touches it, it grounds it out, gives you a neutral light. This takes a little bit of finesse. Some people would like to put all the forks on at once and drop it all in at once. That's great, but so we have our center that have markings on it. So we have a C, we have an R for right, and we have an L for left. So most stuff, when they're referencing left or right, we have a motor that's going to be sitting like that in the bike. This would be the right side, and this would be the left side in most cases. But we're going to see how this all lines up. But the orientation of what it's facing matters also. The one that I'm using, it says the L left will go in, and that will face upward. The center and the right, the markings for them will face downward. So we'll see how that lines up. And that doesn't work. The L has to face down. Oh boy, it's the only one that goes down to the bottom. They say the left faces up and everything else faces down. I think that might be opposite. I think the left will face down and the center will face up. No, that doesn't work either. That's the only way I can see it working. It's like that. Which is left down, center down, right up. That would be neutral. Yep, that's engaged. And if you're wondering what that gear noise is, that's just straight cut gears. It's a product of a kind of a bad design. Undercut gears are way quieter, way less wear, way more contact area. These are not. Straight cut, noisy as hell. Alternator side of the crankshaft goes down. We do have a bearing to go in there, nice and frosty. And now we have our Kickstarter shaft. I'm gonna go ahead and, this thing's already been cleaned and gone through. I'm gonna go ahead and just get it all lubed up. Alright, that's lubed up. And we have thrust washer. We have our teeth gear right here. So there's a hole right there, which I imagine that can go inside, or I'm sorry, this center one can go inside of. I haven't had one of these things apart in years, so I think it's gonna go in there like that. So looking in the manual, this part right here, oops, popped out. That goes in there like that. This part's gonna go down, and then maybe lock in under it. Aha! See how it locks it in there like that? And this is where the stopper bolt comes in. It's all coming back to me, right to the back. So if you ever thought that was the oil drain bolt, don't do it. Got an O-ring on here. So this will be the fun part. So normally what you would do is you'd put a Kickstarter on this so you can kind of kick it through. You ready to watch me struggle? Whew! Alright, so something came undone. Nope, nothing came undone. That's just my paranoia. Hook that spring around the case. What a pain in the... So it goes in there like this. I think I had the spring upside down, which would make way more sense. I had the spring upside down, guys. I don't know what I was thinking. That sits way more flat. I had a spring, yeah, I don't know, don't ask. Put that spring there, bypass this case right here. And that kind of holds it for a second. Then we can grab our Kickstarter, rotate this back, install our stopper bolt, and now it's installed. Way easier. We'll torque that down a bit. Cool. Alright, let's bring this back over. Let's go ahead and install this case real quick. I just want to double check shifting on it. We have a thrust washer right here that we have to be mindful of. This goes on our Kickstarter spindle. We're just trying to set this down on top right now. In the manual it says to turn the Kickstarter while we set it in place. We have to align the gears of it up. Crankshaft spinning, looking more and more like a motor again. I'm just gonna throw a couple of bolts in here just to line this stuff and kind of tighten it down a little bit. One of the things I did splurge on is some new hardware. And you can find this stuff all over the place. eBay, they make full motor assembly kits. I did the same thing to the CL. This is for Honda XL185. I mean, and they label everything for you, which is nice. It's about maybe about 45. Okay, that one's open. About $45, I think. But all new stainless Allens. Now, the catch with this stuff is it's a completely different metal than what we have in the cases, and this stuff can seize itself to the case. So literally every bolt you have to put some type of either oil on or anti-seize so it doesn't get stuck in the case. That's kind of one of the downfalls of it. Crankcase. Nice stuff, man. Nice stuff. Man, it looks good. And then make sure we're shifted. Just gonna grab our little star gear here with our little metal detent that we had that we can't lose. It's kind of going out of the way to get back to where you want to be, but it's worth it because the one thing that I am unsure of is that stupid those shift forks. The way they want you to put it in the manual is it doesn't work. They don't line up that way. Okay, the detent should allow us to at least track when we're in what gear instead of guessing. Neutral, first, neutral, second, third. You have to keep spinning this stuff. Fourth, fifth, fourth, third, second, neutral first. Sweet! No! I gotta redo this again. Got us a Taiwanese gasket set. Clean this mating surface off. We got 2 dowels where we should. That's pretty good. We can cut this little piece off the top here. We don't need that. And for the last and hopefully final time, and instead of an anti-seize, I'm just going to use some moly paste for these bolts, and each one will get it, even up on the shoulder, not just the threads. And these bolts are definitely stronger than the case threads, so don't go crazy. Crisscross pattern. These will probably get like 7 foot-pounds maybe. If you want to get your torque stick out and do it, you can, but I've done enough of these cases to know what's what. I'm not arrogant, I've just done it many times. We got some excess gasket up top of here, and I just cut it off with a razor. Nothing to it, make sure it's nice and flat. The rest of this is rinse and repeat. We're going to install a few more parts here. The shift detent, make sure that's lubed up. The star that goes on the end of the, I call it the star, whatever. It goes on the end of the shift drum. Make sure that all the stuff's nice and lubed up on its first time into the motor. I use a little bit of moly there too. This comes with a spring and a little washer. I think it might just be just a spring and a snap ring, actually. Alright, so we can stop there and officially say that the bottom end is back together. Everything else is kind of like a watch in the way that it goes back together, and there's some parts that I have some buddies messing with and cleaning up for me because I don't have certain tools to get them how I would like them to be, like that old disgusting clutch basket that you guys may remember. And I got new clutch packs and springs and various parts coming in that I just can't continue forward until I have those parts in. But I hope you did enjoy the content, found a little bit of nuggets in there that you could keep, and found the content enjoyable as you watch my struggles. If you hated the video, then I'm sure I'll hear about it, but thanks for wasting your time with me. Until next time, Cody from Motorcycle ND, bringing you guys some quality tips and tricks for your next build or your daily rider. See you next time. Make sure you grab that free course. Later.